Gugnil and Jens from Action. Welcome my colleague Saskia, who will be the second speaker. Gugnil, Jens, thank you for supporting this event today. Perhaps I would like to give you the word first to have a look back at this year and a little bit ahead. Gugnil, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Casper. Well, hello, everyone. It's great to see you all in this webinar. This is Gugnil from Action, and I'm working as a technical manager. So before indeed give it a start to the webinar, that let's look a little bit back, which is for the last 2.5 years. Thanks to your collaboration and dedication of the ProductIP, actually we achieved a lot, which we are quite proud of it. All suppliers were onboarded, and we collected great amount of technical files thanks to you and the ProductIP. And it was a significant step in compliance, and we would like to continue like that. As you know, that Action is still growing with 11 countries, and there will be 3 more countries until at the end of 2025, which these are Portugal, Switzerland, and Romania. So actually it means that our compliance journey also will get bigger and bigger. So we are looking forward to your further collaboration with ProductIP. And I know that they prepared a great agenda for today. So enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Gugnil. My name is Jens. I'm also one of the technical managers here at Action. And I also would like to show you a little bit about the future. So like you all know from the webinar, which we had beginning of the year, we also would like to roll out our preferred lab approach beginning of next year. So that means we will start category by category. And by the end of 2025, we would like to have all categories onboarded. And also here, thanks to ProductIP, so ProductIP also will be our strategic and compliancy partner. So they are collecting all the technical files delivered by the preferred labs. So I'm looking forward to the next year. Thank you all. And I'm handing over to ProductIP. Thank you.
Thanks. Jens, is the approach with using the designated laboratories, is that already clear, or will there be an event Q1 to explain a little bit more to the suppliers?
Exactly. So we are now finalizing the whole approach. We are finalizing all the dedicated preferred labs. And by beginning of next year, then also all the suppliers will hear from us.
Great. Looking forward to it. That's a significant step to get designated labs involved in this process. All right. Okay. Saskia, let me make you host. Welcome to the people that just joined. We say bye-bye to Gugnil and Jens. Thank you for participating. The floor is ours in that sense. Have a good day.
Yeah.
And
thank you very much.
Thank you. Wish you also a good day.
Exactly.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sas, you are the host. You can share the screen.
Here, hold on, because my computer is okay.
Is he shifting windows? Yeah, that's it.
There it is. So thank you all for joining. I think most of the people are joining have already been in contact with me. Saskia from ProductIP. I'm here to explain more topics to you, which we asked you in a survey in August and September. And based on the reply we got from you, the response, I've chosen some topics which I want to explain in more detailed information to you, because it's also for you a job to collect all the documents, to comply to all the legislation, and hand out all the documents to us. And maybe we can make this life a little bit easier and help each other, because we have to do it together. So we collect documents based on the requirement list on our technical file, which we create in the account of Action, and based on the information we get from Action. the first thing where you can find a lot of extra information when you start or have a new colleague or had a request for many times when you have received a new request for a long time, and then you think, oh, where can I find all the information? Go to the dedicated action page, and there you can find a guide. You can find detailed information about a video, how to fill out the templates, etc. So a lot of extra information is there, and we're here to help you, of course. If anything is not clear, reach out to us and we contact you and explain all your questions further. So when we receive the information from Action, that's only article detailed information. It's a product name, it's a product date, it's a market release date, maybe familiar on your side, like a stock on hand date or a stock on shelf date. And based on that, we create a technical file. So we really need your help with this. When we don't have any article information in the system, it's a new technical file for us. So we start from scratch and send out a document request to you, and you can upload the documents you have. It's also possible that there was already an existing technical file. In the past, we created already a technical file for this article. So we like to reuse this information in the file, but we ask your confirmation for this. So if it's a repeat file and we think, yes, we can reuse the information in that existing technical file, we send to you an order confirmation form. This one you will receive in your email. You can forward that to your colleague if you're not familiar with the questions, you don't know the answers. Is this the real same supplier? Is it any process producing the product, any changes there? Then we can reuse the information if that's all not. So if it's really the same, we'd like to reuse the information. So based on the information you gave in that order confirmation form, we proceed collecting maybe some updates on requirement, some documents need to be updated. So, but slightly less effort for you to create a whole technical file. In some cases, we created a file for a very long time because we started this journey in 2021 with Action. And maybe now the repeat file is coming in. So after 3 years, a lot of new testing should be done. New legislation is applicable to your product. So that's why we start from scratch, even if there was already a technical file. But based on the information we have, we'd like to be as supporting for you as possible. So that's how it works. But we really need your confirmation if the data we receive from Action is correct, because along the way, it's possible that a delivery is postponed, something happened or whatsoever. And it was with the data on a stock on hand date, but it turns out it will be delivered to Action on a later date. That's a really important date because we base our requirement list and what kind of legislation is applicable to your product based is on the market release date. So if that's not a correct date, maybe requirements are on your list that are not applicable whatsoever. So maybe we can't reuse test reports because outdated requirements. So the market release date is a really important date. Please confirm that to us if there is any change in this.
Saskia, I don't see your slides changing.
Oh, why not? Stop. That's weird.
Should I run the presentation on my end?
Maybe better then. Okay.
Because I know that you are.
Yeah, I was already in slide 4 or something.
At
so.
least. But when I listen to you, you say that some of the remarks that we got from the survey that we did has to do with things that people feel, okay, is this file really belong to my product, or there are things in there that are not, that I cannot really place. And that is sometimes because we start with very limited information.
Definitely.
So for us, it's a best guess in that sense. And it's not, I don't think it's something that is specifically for Action. It's quite common in retail and trade that the basic specifications of products somewhere in the supply chain where people start with compliance is relatively limited. So we'll need to have a look at that. Let me see, where is my... Where is the... Oh yeah, I'm of course already running my presentation. That was already the reason. I'll need to open yours. That one. So you are saying we need to really have some help from people on that part to figure out.
Yeah, definitely. And also when we start,
Action is via the platform, basically.
Yeah, via the platform, definitely. And because we run well, quite some occasions that it turned out that it was postponed, or and then of course yeah, we need your information, because Action will not update any information on us.
So this is the page where you refer to. That is so here's always the latest information. One thing that they really need to remember, /Action.
Correct.
Very relevant, especially with the new countries coming as well. I mean, Romania and Portugal. Portugal is really EU and CE. Romania is new, relative new to this legislation, and Switzerland seems the same, but is not the same.
Nope.
Something the same, different plug for sure. Already something different, and multiple languages. So this was the flow that you mentioned.
Yeah. We got a new article, then we start from scratch based, and then of course based on the information we receive from Action. Then we have the repeat file, and that means that we look into the account of Action if there is already an existing file, and based on the information there, we try to reuse as much as possible. But we need the confirmation of the supplier, of course. Is this really the same article? Is this really produced with the same factory? Is this really the same material used, or is anything changed during the production? Because based on that, maybe you need to do a new check for a test.
It's not uncommon that it's the same article from a new supplier.
Correct. So we, of course, it's documents you collect, but the case behind the collecting of the documents is so much more, and it's so much about quality. It's about relying on data and the testing, etc.
Understood.
So, yeah.
So in the discussions before, we looked at it, and some of the users in the flow with Action only are in the upload flow basically, but others are actually making files themselves.
Yeah.
And this is of course an advantage, because what people maybe don't know is that if you make a file in ProductIP, you create a file and you get a requirement list based on some assumptions. For example, the market release date, or what Action uses as a stock on shelf date or something like that. So this is like the reference date for which you select the requirements in our database. At the moment you do that, we already know, based on what we know today, when that list won't be relevant for a future order to support.
Correct. Yeah, we look 18 months ahead at least. So that's a long time.
So we call that a reorder expiry date. So for people that actually have files themselves, because you can make a file not only for Action but for others, the same, they will actually know already one of these, what some of these three will apply, because maybe the requirement list is already out of sync basically. And so that's why we mentioned it, that all ProductIP files have a reorder expiry date. If you just get an invite to upload information from Action, you won't see that. But Action will know.
Definitely.
We also will know. So
yeah.
All right. So this one was one of the first things that you mentioned, stock on hand.
stock on hand, stock on shelf date, it's really near, but that needs to be in line with the market release date we use in our technical file, because that's the date we base our requirement list on.
Right.
So
So
if there's
it might be offset with what we think it is.
definitely, and of course 1 month may not inflect the requirement list, but yeah, it definitely could. So, and then we are requesting the wrong documents. So that's
Right.
really, and of course, it also depends on when does the technical file has to be done, because we report to Action. Action expects that the file is complete at least 1 month before the market release date. So that's the suppliers see the deadline in the technical file. This is a screenshot from the request the suppliers see. So when you open your request, you can see the deadline of the technical file. That's 1 month before the market release date. So
The stock on hand date.
Yes. Well, most of the suppliers are now familiar with our wording, but so it's stock on hand date, market release date. And then if you see that that's not in line what you expected, decline then, because then we can update and inform us with the correct market release date. So if you click on decline, a screen will pop up and you can add your note there. Add as much information there. It could also be that you think, oh, but next order was from a different factory. We don't know, and we need to know this information. So you can always decline and give us your information already before we started the collecting of the documents.
Yeah, so this comment section is really it's like the chat basically. But the reason why we have made it is that it's logged in the file. It's part of the timeline. So
no, well, actually, Casper, the comment is next. This is the comment. This is in your upload page.
Yeah.
So when you accepted the invite, and then you get the comment section, and there is the chat, like you say. It's like your WhatsApp, left and right, and in a very clear overview on all the detailed information. Very nice tooling, because if you work together with your colleagues, everybody can see, Action can see. So if you want to say something and give us more information about why something is not correct, etc., or you have to do a retest and it takes more time, inform us. We can set a file on hold. Do not bother you every time with every twice a week. Please upload the documents. No, we will stop and we will act on the date you gave us. That's totally. Action also agreed that we can instantly follow up the information the supplier gives. So if the supplier gives us a different market release date, we don't have to double check with Action. They totally rely on the information on the supplier, and Action is also depending on that. So
and the good thing is that this comments is logged in the file. So what we promise and what you promise, or what we agree and you agree, is basically part of the decision-making process, and it's not lost somewhere in emails.
No.
Okay, so this is what you told. Sometimes doubt about the product. That's because minimum information available. Sometimes we merge articles into one file but what we do is we look on article names.
Yes, or so previous technical files that we thought, oh, that was already merged in the previous technical file, so why not do it again for the new technical file? But it can, of course, happen that the one article is bought from a different factory than the other one. So that's a very important information.
Okay.
So if you look on your upload page, because we see a lot of doubt about our requirement list, and like we explained already, we based it on sometimes just a picture or just the wording of an article. We think, oh yeah, that was it. And then you can, as supplier, can look what kind of decisions we made. So on the upload page, there is where you can find in the red area view the information the requirement list is based on, and the requirement list is reflecting on the document request. So we create a requirement list in our technical file, and then it gives us the documents we have to collect. So based on that, so please double check the chosen product category, because if you choose the wrong product category, it might end up in a wrong requirement list, or missing requirements, or wrong standards. So that could happen, and of course we really need your help with that.
Good.
If you see some mistakes there, here is pointing out again the comment section where you can give your information, add your comment there, and then we can change the information in the technical file, and we collect the correct data.
Right. So sometimes the type of documents, which is of course a consequence of the requirements, which is a consequence of the product. Sometimes the type of documents, people will look at it. Oh, I see here things that I totally not expect. Okay,
Correct.
That is no.
Yeah.
This is also one of these always crazy things. Do I need to make a file for one article, or can I combine SKUs into one technical file? Well, Saskia.
Of course you can. And we try to, because that also avoid uploading multiple documents in multiple technical files. If it's tested on one test report and you have a referring article, yeah, of course we can group the articles together into one file. For instance, the examples we show you here, difference of color, difference of shape, difference of size, but it's from the same material, it's from the same supplier, from the same batch, etc., etc. And you can provide the same documents. We group it into one technical file, and you only have to upload it in this technical file. But the lamp is a very good example. You have an indoor lamp and an outdoor lamp, totally different requirements, because the outdoor lamp, it should be better waterproof. Otherwise, you really have an issue on your house. So can't be grouped together, because you will create a shoebox. You create one long requirement list. You create a shoebox with multiple documents, which document is applicable to which product. So that's why we separate it.
So a white pen and a black pen are not the same.
No, definitely. And actually, and this is what I want to point out with this slide. Please help us. If we have merged the articles into one file, but it seems that you say, oh, no, it's not possible. We buy those articles from multiple factories, or even if you because Action has a big numbers you deliver to Action. So maybe you have it created in 2 batches and it's from separate suppliers. Then we also have to create 2 different technical files, and that's very important to understand.
Or the other way around too. You know, if you get 2 invites, but you think they really could be combined into one, let us know. Good.
Let us know. Yeah.
So the key point is, we start a process based on limited information. You as suppliers to Action have all the opportunity to let us know why we should have done it differently. Do that via the comment section, and we'll change it accordingly. And you have the lead in that sense, because Action just want to have the product, and it's up to you to ensure it's good. Okay.
Definitely. Well, and also about this slide, here you can find extra information. You will tell later on extra. But what I also want to show you is we start here with a list with requested documents. Of course, we create that, and not always clear of the wording, the naming, and you can also ignore the list we are requesting you from the start. Just upload what you have. We will review those documents. We will write you a feedback with detailed information on what's missing on documents, what kind of documents are missing. And in some cases, for now, still Action is also accepting declarations, and those declarations can be found on the resources on the right side. The blue square there you can find extra information. So you can find there the templates which you can use, fill them in, upload them, and yeah, you will be
Right.
So, and also, of course, the ProductIpedia is accessible for all suppliers. And the extra information. Can you go back, one slide back, Casper? And the extra information on the requirement, because we refer to the document, but if you put your mouse on it, you can see to the left the requirements information. Maybe standards are mentioned, etc. So this is more explanation. Why is this document there, and about what kind of requirement is this document? So that gives you more detailed information. What kind of document we expect from you.
So basically you say, maybe for a first round, just upload what you have, we'll sort it, and then you know what's missing.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
probably very practical.
If you don't understand the list and you
yeah.
think, oh my God, what kind of list are we doing? And just start with uploading what you have. That's also very good.
But why is ProductIP continue to push me for more documents?
Because we know if a file is complete or not. And if it's not complete, we hand it over to Action. And when the supplier is saying, this is all the documents we have, but we see missing documents, then we will inform the supplier what kind of documents are missing. And you as supplier, please inform us why a document is missing, because we handed over your technical file to Action. Action asks us those questions, what kind is missing and why it's missing, and we have to answer that. So we rely on your answer on why you don't upload the requested document. Maybe you find it not applicable, please, and explain why it's not applicable to you. Because saying it's not applicable, then we have a discussion because we think it's applicable. Otherwise, we haven't asked for it.
Yeah,
so
I'll have a look at that later.
Definitely, but that's
I'll have a look at that actually now.
Yeah, very good, very good. So those are the things I wanted to point out to you as supplier. If anything is not clear, reach out, get in contact with us. We gladly explain more detailed information to you, how you can start and etc.
Yeah,
so,
and the help desk is in the Netherlands.
It's in the Netherlands, so you can type in Dutch if you're from Holland, of course. If you're in France, sorry for this.
You can try in Dutch if you are in another country as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so understood. The main feedback is actually always about communication, and the quality of information in general around specification product is not really good in terms of product compliance based. That's also why it's difficult to use that information instantly in an automation process for getting into compliance. Half an hour more. I have a few slides about ProductIP which you can read later. That's me. You know that. I will start with this. And for those who have seen other Compliance Tuesday sessions, we mostly look into what's happening in Brussels, but we also look into the other member states, because, for example, Switzerland is not communicating via Brussels in this sense. Brussels has 6 trains or 6 platforms that they use as a reference for the main topics of legislation that they are developing. And from those platforms, like the Green Deal, or that's the whole 2030 environmental agenda, European Fit for the Digital Age, where you find topics like how to deal with AI and how to have, let's say, protection of information, general data protection regulation. Those 6 platforms are the main groups in which they develop legislation, and the trains are synonyms for those legislation developments. There are actually 584 trains that already have departed or will depart or even have crashed, derailed. And for us, that's our scope. You know, the countries also have a scope and they also report via Brussels, but this is really also the main agenda that I just want to point out to you in the next few slides. For us, some of you will say, yeah, we are just busy with toys, but this is not how the world works. There might be things coming applicable for toys that you don't have on your radar. We have to read them all in order to understand what is relevant for product compliance. And this results in around 400 updates a month in average. These could be legislative updates, it could be standards that change, but it can also be functionalities that we need to develop. And the digital product passport coming is one of them. We call it the tsunami in Dutch. You can run for the wave or you can ride the wave. The reason that I made the next few slides is that I want to look a little bit ahead for you, 2024, 2025, and point out why some of the things we ask are relevant. If you read those 584 and the other ones that are already been published, which I don't recommend if you have other things to do, because we are reading that for you, you will notice a complete different tone of voice in the EU legislation. Up to now, most of the regulations were really based on a voluntarily compliance route. You know, we will do it, we will do it, we will do it. The reality is actually that we have not done enough and we are running out of time given other agendas. So what you see is that now there will be an emphasis on active participation. Brussels is solving things by mandating you to fill in data. Let's say EPREL for energy labels. In order to be filling in data and get a artwork for an energy label, you need to have data. This data you can make up, but if you be confronted with a scan of a QR code by market surveillance authorities and the data is not matching the product, then you are liable. Entering data in EPREL is like doing your taxes, but then for a company, it's an official statement. It's like signing a declaration of conformity, which is one of the topics this afternoon. The same with substances of very high concern. And Saskia, you mentioned, yeah, we can have a declaration. Yeah, we declare that there's no substance of very high concern. Yeah, we declare. You can declare till the end of time and think this will be my solution. But I can tell you it isn't. Because we have declared left and right and didn't do anything. And the reality is, if you look at electronic products with a little bit complex electronics there, it's very, very unlikely that there are not substances of very high concern in there over 0.1%. And some of these have an exception, and some of these have no exception. But in certain cases, over 0.1%, you already had the obligation to inform your business partners. That didn't work, so now they mandated you need to register it at the SCIP database. Last week, we discussed this new French decree. The French actually say, no. If you anyway need to inform this people via the SCIP database, I want you to inform consumers. The new toys regulation actually mentioned that as well. Okay, so how is a declaration going to inform consumers? And if you make declarations, you need to ensure that declarations actually meet the date of the last version, because you cannot make a declaration, we comply with SVHCs for now and in the future if you're not sure what the future is. And these things are updated every 6 months. Oh, we need to have an update every 6 months. No, you need to look at the update every 6 months. And if they add space grade aluminium and there's no space grade aluminium in your apparel products, then you can basically snooze this update. But that's then the action. The action is, I've looked at it, it's not relevant for my product, it's not there, it's not in the substances that we are using, and therefore I void the request to any additional testing. That is how you deal with this. Yeah. The other thing is that, and there, especially on the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, there was already a voluntary system. Oh, we now need to report. There was already for 10 years. Actually, we asked people in Brussels, can we do it by ourselves? Yeah. And these were the large stock market listed companies that wanted that. But the reality is they didn't even set their targets. So Brussels says, it's fine, we're done with it. We have third parties that need to sign off. You can set your goals. You can report what's the progress or lack of progress and make your adjustments. But we want this to be signed off by third parties. So we make it a non-financial reporting directive. Now your accountants or other third parties need to sign it off. So we have a lot of space, but the space has been taken away. And this will not return. I cannot see that they will give back this space. We have given it to them and now they're there. There are other things, targets that they defined on recycling, targets that they refined on the use of rare resources in 2030, and they've done so in international treaties. So this is not just Europe. There's actually, and I just saw a presentation on another piece of legislation like the eco design. How many other big economies are leaning on the development of European legislation? Is actually quite impressive. Yeah. We had a session on timber regulation moving into EU deforestation-free products 4 weeks ago. And just days before that, even the US made a bipartisan, dus both Republicans and Democrats working on a piece of legislation. It's almost the same. That is simple because they're international treaties. They set the targets all together and now they need to convert it into legislation. We've been very good in making claims, and even on energy labels, I think there's an X percentage of products that is two labels too green, where you're actually just printing money. And if you look at how much power consumption is related to that, I have read that it is like the electricity use of Portugal and Hungary together. So we are really overestimating how green we are. If certain aspects become law, you cannot use them for marketing. So if green in many products cases becomes law, then you cannot call them green, and you can definitely not do greenwashing. This is already banned in France. Yeah. Of course, what is also relevant, you know, if action is expanding in 3 more countries, you want to have harmonization. You want to have one piece of legislation that you can use across all countries, and that is definitely a development that is going to work and help you. There will be different schemes on recycling in different countries, but if I looked at the latest version of the packaging and packaging waste regulation, there's a move towards a uniform set of icons. So you have like one kind of packaging, and then you can have explanation in various languages, because you can harmonize whatever legislation you want, but we still have many languages in Europe, but you can have the explanation digitally. And that, of course, is it's not an effort to make a PDF in 27 languages or make 27 different PDFs in different languages and have them available digitally. And that saves a lot of cost. And for you as a business, there's an update of the Product Liability Directive coming. We have a German CT session on there at 11. That basically says if you have no evidence about the compliance of your product, you are already liable in case of something that went wrong. I always compare it when you have these winter conditions and you drive in Germany without winter tires on your car. If you are involved in an accident, you are also guilty, because you should be prepared. So was this really change? This change legislation, was it really needed? It is. You know, there are also really economic reason for that. If you look at your business 10 years ago and look at your business now and in a few years, you probably are shipping products really to a faster set of countries, and also via new routes, not only via brick and mortar retail, but also via e-commerce. So that's definitely a big step. Technology in products, very specific for non-food, combining features with traditional product, make a hole in a desk and drop a Qi charger in there, and suddenly you have a new product. I like that. I like the gadgets, but making dumb product smarts have consequences for compliance. Yeah, which you probably not always realize. We are increasing consumption. So if you look at packaging and packaging waste, 50% of the single-use paper and plastics is related to packaging. We want to bring it back to half of what we have today, but we know that we are going to consume twice the number of SKUs in 2030. So actually, we want to bring it down to 25% basically. So we know we are going to grow. That's good. It's good for your business, but at the same time, we need to prevent that we are going to use double the amount of resources. And that's quite a challenge. So the ambitious environmental targets that have been set, they are really seriously ambitious on that. And if you look at that and you look at things that are going wrong in the market, we are not learning. We are continue to make the same mistakes. And of course, it's not you, it's somebody else. But that's not how the governments perceive that. They just look at the market in general and they see that things need to change. So you can point out, oh, these are the fulfillment service providers that do that, but they are also targeted in the new legislation. So when I say things will change, they will change for everybody. That's good. But you need to realize if the outside world is changing and you are not changing at the inside with your company, you will lag behind and left behind. It's like the Tour de France. They don't wait for anybody else. They just move on. I call it that you need to move from non-information to info. And we are wasting a lot of time in the supply chain by sharing information that is actually not information. A little bit what Saskia said before. You can sometimes find a file where two products are mixed, but it actually should be separate product files. If you put all kind of documents in a big box and you lose traceability, then you have a problem when you need the documents, because we are collecting documents that you actually already should have or somebody should have in the supply chain. And you do it to demonstrate that there is an assumption of conformity. And you do it because when something is going wrong, you can ensure that everybody has done its best, what should be done for these kind of products. And that reduces liability. So we all do it in the hope that we don't need it. But when things go wrong, it's always the Friday for Easter. Looking at the legislation, there need to be better information on the product. What raw materials are used, how it's made, and from who it's coming. There you already see supply chain. If you look at Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, if you look at the United Nations 17 SDGs, you cannot disconnect product and supply chain anymore. The battery regulation is talking about where is some of the raw materials coming from, up to the mine. What percentage of materials is coming from recycled sources? Ditto, they will do that for packaging. Yeah, and if you just think about the supply chain partners behind your factory that are involved in who is supplying the outer carton, who is supplying the inner carton, who is supplying the tape, who is supplying the shrink wrap, who is supplying the paper, to the packaging manufacturer. So you can look at this and say, okay, I have so many SKUs and I need to ask 10,000 people a question. Or I can say, no, I'm going to make the problem more constrained first. I'm going to find for my key volume products actually packaging suppliers, and I'm going to manage them as a supplier so that I can control it. So you need to sometimes really rethink the way things are handling. There's a lot of information out there in technical files that lack traceability information, that lack a date, that lack a version. It's like I'm building a house. There's all kind of people that work for a construction company, and they all run around with drawings of my house that will be there, hopefully. But none of these drawings have a version. None of these have a reference. None of these have a date. I'm not sure which house they built, but they're all building a different house. Or they could be building a different house. Sometimes things don't go wrong because you have fantastic suppliers. Yeah, but take out the sometimes and just make them, it always goes right because we have fantastic suppliers that have traceable information. So start to focus on info. Is the information really quality information? And when the information request steps up, yeah, it's not just a certificate anymore. You need to have all kind of data. You need to have weight. I want to have addresses of suppliers and even GPS dates so I can do carbon footprint calculations, etc., etc. You don't want to have more Excel sheets. You want to have an efficient information flow. So when we have read this tsunami of legislation coming from Brussels, we actually already thought, okay, that is 3 to 4 new guys on our IT department that we have to get working for you. And that's really what is happening. So the things that we are doing at our IT department, you or somebody else needs to do it as well. If you want to be able to share information transparently in the future, you need to step up your IT as well. Looking at 2024, what will it bring? Definitely a new packaging and packaging waste regulation. Will there be a transition period? Yes. Will it be long? I don't think so. Maybe 18 months. But actually, it doesn't really matter a lot because the targets that they have set for 2030, they won't change. In the original version, there was like 3 steps of increase of use of recycled materials to 2030. Maybe it will become 2 steps. So, no, the 2030 really don't change. Is this all new? In fact, no, you don't need to wait for it. You know what they're aiming for. They're aiming for less packaging material, and they're aiming for more recycled materials. You don't need to wait for that. You can start with that. The new product liability directive definitely will come. That won't change products. No, but it will change your liability. New toys regulation is underway. Definitely will change the framework around toys. As I said, skip information on SVACs will be transparent on toys. The digital product passport will be for toys. The CE declaration to be shipped with toys. Definitely different. Will the toy be different? They were skipping a lot of substances information from the toys directive and rely on REACH. So REACH is the library for chemical substances and all related constraint. So they want to make legislation more clearly on that. But the battery and battery waste legislation we signed off 2023. It will start. And then many of you will say, okay, but it doesn't start for my batteries. Not so sure. It will start for batteries in general, and it will influence the battery industry, and it might influence the way you have access to certified batteries. Batteries will get CE, by the way, as well. The General Product Safety Regulation was signed off. It's replacing the General Product Safety Directive. That will start January 1st, 2025, somewhere around that. Then you need to be able to have digital interaction with consumers in case of recalls. So definitely interesting. Next year will be the first year of the German Lieferkette Gesetz, and it will have impact on the European Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. So these two are aligned. There are more of those directives hovering over the market. But in general, it is about knowing from who am I buying? What's my first tier? What's my second tier? Do I know anything about the environment around that factory? Are there things that I can impact? Are my factories posing the same rules on their factories that I am on them? Again, you don't need to wait to set things in motion. And I think the first challenge, map your supply chain up to the second tier. That's a massive if you can achieve that in 2024. Of course, very actual microplastic legislation, PFOS, PFAS, POPs. That is, I would see the chemical part is really will be for some of you a big nightmare in 2024. You can get recalls on products that will have these substances because they're prohibited. Don't forget that the reason why some of these items now are on the agenda is because it has become pretty cheap and cheerful to measure them. So the POPs in general, the agenda on that is since 1996, something like that. So in the 90s already the POPs were mentioned. Can you continue with measuring if there are any prohibited substances in any of your parts? No. Yeah, the labs like that. The labs like you to test everything for everything. That's their business model. But you need to know what is in there, and then you can do really a true risk-based approach on what still to test. We will see the first implementation of digital product passports with QR codes. It's a massive exercise for you when you want to start changing packaging, but just follow the order flow on that in the coming years, and of course follow ProductIP to stay up to date. Watching regulation on eco design for a sustainable product. That will be really impressive with a little bit what the French already have: repairability, durability requirements, spare parts availability. So it's remember that this is a pretty big agenda, not just for you, also for your retail customers. So that is also why they value an importer that takes care of these kind of things. So I promised to dive into a few questions that came up as frequently asked questions, and one of them was why are ProductIP pointing out LVD standards and battery on battery products? Actually, we don't call it LVD standards; we call it for electrical safety, and yes, they are harmonized on the low voltage directive. So the question arises often because the low voltage directive itself has a threshold of 50 volt DC and onwards. The reason why we list these things is very simple. The General Product Safety Directive, and actually the General Product Safety Regulation, always is applicable. So this is like the umbrella, this is the parachute escape of market surveillance as well. They require a risk assessment. Okay, if you have a normal product like a coffee maker and it's used like a coffee maker, what additional risks would you have for a coffee maker others than that you could review when you use a harmonized standards? Because if there's a dedicated harmonized standard for a coffee maker, then you should assume that that standard covers the risk of the coffee maker. But what if it's a battery product? Well, you could have battery powered product makers. You still need to look at certain things. Do you then need to test that battery powered product to that whole standard? Well, basically you can say you can test it, but you will find many of the clauses in that standard as not applicable. But there will be a few clauses that might be applicable. Yeah, there could be small parts, there could be sharp parts, there could be laser light, there could be mechanical risks. You either do a product safety risk assessment by yourself, or you take that standard and use it as a reference. You could buy the standard and read it, or you could ask a lab to assess it, or ask the factory to assess it. You don't need to test these things in a lab. This is a complete misunderstanding. This is not notified body stuff. You can do it yourself. But what other reference would ProductIP have than to point you towards a harmonized standard that you could use when the product would not be low voltage? You know, note that some of these battery products, if you would add wireless communication, then suddenly the whole 50 volt DC threshold of the LVD is no longer applicable, and then the standard suddenly becomes relevant. Yes, okay. So the labs would know. Yeah, the labs know. So what they do then? Yeah, they void a lot. It's not applicable because there's not a plug. No, a plug. There's no risk to get an electrical shock. No, there's no risk to electrical. But there are other things that could be relevant. And then if you look at battery products and recalls, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? Actually, most of the toys have mandatory low voltage operation, I know battery operation, so there could be a lot of things go wrong. Button cell batteries or other batteries and choking and chemical risk is always related. You could have battery operated products with UV light, which you don't want to have on your eyes. I don't need 230 volt to have a UV light. You have LEDs on UV light. It's 0.5 volt. I can run a UV light LED on the battery. You don't want that on your skin. What about laser pointers? They are battery operated products. What can go wrong? Well, it's a laser. Don't forget that USB-C, also in a power bank, is designed to deliver 100 watt. Yeah, I have a battery powered product that I can use to light a candle. It's a that I can light to use a candle. It has a little spark, and it powers a little spark, and it lights the candle. You can have fires created by 100 watt. It's a lot of power. Or you can have battery powered toys that can create injuries. So you cannot say battery powered products, what can go wrong? You need to check how to prevent what things can go wrong. And ProductIP, the best standard that is there out is still the harmonized standard. Yeah, it's very easy to confirm there are no risks. So why you don't confirm there are no risks? That's basically the slogan. Because if you say, yeah, there's no risk because, then fill it in. And if you have this product and you have many of the similar products, you need to do the risk assessment just one time. Yeah. And that brings us to the other aspect, and we have risk assessment forms. And yes, I will acknowledge that they can be improved. Things can always be improved. But why would we reject sometimes a risk assessment form that is filled out like this? So the risk assessment form in general looks at potential risks, and the risk is either not there, that's good, it's not applicable on the product, or it is applicable on the product but there is not a risk, or it is applicable on the product and it is also a risk. So if there's no risk or there is a risk, you need to tell me why you don't feel that there is no risk. And there's only a few ways out. Either the risk is taken care of by design, so you solved it by using a harmonized standard and test it as that, or you choose a specific material, or if you have no other way out, then you add warnings and instructions. And I'll give you an example. There are flip-flops that are designed for walking around a pool that have been made so slippery that everybody that was using those flip-flops around the pool actually was starting to break legs, which was not really the flip-flop means of the word flip-flop. So if you have shoes that are designed to be walked on or near pools, you want to choose a material. It's nothing to do with design. So you have to fill in something when you have a yes, and even when you have a no. Did you test it, or is it actually not yes, but should it be not applicable? And are the warning labels attached on the right place and in the right languages, and are their font used in the right size? Yes. So why you don't point out to the document? And point out that this is 5 mm and that it's controlled. And then don't make a specification document that doesn't have a reference date and a reference number and no signature. That is exactly why we are asking for this kind of risk assessment forms. It is to create you an awareness. Are labels of sufficient quality, both glue and ink, not easy to remove, rub out, or UV stable in case required? Yes. Okay. Why? Did you test it? Are you testing it? Is it clear? Don't forget, if your supplier is shipping products for the US, he will have to use a certified label with certified ink and certified labels in order to stick a label on a product and ship it to the US. So it's not uncommon to ask for these kind of things. It might be new for you, but there's just proper ink and proper printers. So the reason why we ask this is because if you start to focus on these aspects, you start to get your supplier awake on these things. So why do we need to provide so many documents? Can it not be limited? And some requirements not relevant for the product. Well, the last one is what you already said. We did not invent all of this. It's not that we went to Brussels and said, hey, we have a great idea. We're going to ask people so many documents to annoy them. This is not how it works. There is a flow that is designed that leads to an assumption of compliance. And we should be very happy in Europe that we have this flow and that we have this liability structure for companies. Because if you follow the flow and things will never go wrong today, but they will go wrong in a couple of years. If you still can point out in a couple of years that in 2023, you actually followed the flow that was applicable, then at least you did what we should have done altogether, and you're not liable. You still have the responsibility to help to clean up and do a recall, but there's no neglect. And the process is, first, determine the scope of applicable legislation, giving the expected or anticipated, just how you want to say it, normal and abnormal use of the product. So we look at products, that's what we already do, and think furniture is furniture, it could be made of timber. If it's timber, yes or no, then timber regulation is applicable. Electrical products, it's always have, because it's electrical, always have RoHS. So that's already there. Certain products will have energy saving requirements. So we look at products, and based on products, can we already select what legislation is applicable? If not, we will ask you the 2 or 3 fine-tuning questions. And based on that, we draw standards from a database. We didn't invent the standards, we didn't invent the agenda, we didn't invent the directives or regulations. The next step is verify if the design meets the requirements that are written down in preferable harmonized standards. So type test the product. Also select the right materials for that. It is no use to select materials for a product and you test it and then you use other materials during mass production. No, it should be the same. And the third step is start to monitor mass production to ensure that the products made are actually the same as the product ever tested. It makes all sense. And when you have done that, then you can declare when CE is relevant. But in fact, when there's no CE relevant, you declare it by placing products on the market. You can declare that there's an assumption of conformity with what they call essential requirements of applicable legislation. To give you an idea on essential requirements, if you look at the REACH legislation, protecting the humans and the environment. So we get questions, why is REACH applicable to this product? Or is REACH applicable to this product? REACH is applicable to all products. Because if the essential requirement is protect the humans and the environment, then it's this. It's clear. And low voltage directive, protect humans and pets and properties to negative influence of electrical products, which could be shock, which could be fire. Okay, property as well. Yeah, it's essential requirements. So we just stack essential requirements in our list. Yeah. You need information in order to be able to do the above. If you don't have a bit of material, if you don't have information on raw materials that are used, if you don't have XYZ, often our B3 group of products, how are you be able to confirm market surveillance authorities, your insurance company, other stakeholders, that you actually were able to monitor production? Because if you don't have information, what are you looking at? Just a black box. Yeah. So a lot of the questions that are in a technical file, which we didn't invent, are what you can call control questions. Yeah. And if you think some things are not relevant, Saskia pointed out, you can write it in the comments and we will reply to that. But we have this functionality since day one. People that actually make technical files sometimes have a question about a requirement and they use the report incorrect missing requirement when they make a file. If you are
Casper, this is only
if you are in the upload, if you are in the upload sequence, but actually you don't see this, I just want to point out.
Great, thank
you.
There's
28,000 users of ProductIP that actually also make files. So it's not that we are not subjected to this kind of discussion. It's actually the advantage of software as a service. There's a large pool of very critical mass out there, and you are part of that, that push us and say, are you really sure? Because XYZ and our product, and sometimes there might be an exception, or sometimes there is a new guide, or sometimes there's legislation. Not everything that is out there is easy to be found. Yeah. And if there's, for example, just a court case somewhere in Germany and the XYZ said this is allowed, okay, then we can use that and add it to evidence. Yeah, but this is fine-tuning, this is nitty-gritty. Yeah. But I just want to point out that for us, we have this sensor and we are looking into this very seriously. We take these remarks very, because we might be wrong. In fact, those 400 updates of the requirement list, we monitor that. We know which files are made by which version of our database. Even Brussels sometimes had made a mistake and we had to refocus standard and return requirement, rerun requirement list and rerun some files. So it is definitely in our DNA. And I want to use this example, which is actually from the Toys Directive, to point out to you that the things that we ask is really nothing crazy. In the Toys Directive, it says technical documentation shall contain, in particular, so far as relevant for assessment, which you have to do, a detailed description of the design and manufacturing, this is a production flow chart, including a list of components and material used in the toys, as well as the safety data sheets on the chemicals used to be obtained from the chemical suppliers. I picked this example because how much clearer do you want it to have? And I can tell you, in any of the relevant legislation that applies to product, it's written in a very similar way. So the fact that you haven't seen it, or your supplier says nobody is asking for this, it doesn't really matter. It's a non-full argument. Stop using that as an excuse, because it's not written as an excuse in legislation. Yeah? Yes, but is also no in that sense. I wrote down a couple of things that came up during the 10 years of one-day crash courses on product compliance that I've been given. And I really would like you to use this and stick it on the coffee machine in your office, because probably this is debugging these kind of issues. Because the real trouble around this issue is the yes, but culture that is probably at your end. And Brussels don't care anything about that. If you go bankrupt because you don't follow legislation, the market don't care. The shelves will be full and people will buy your competitor's product. So you just need to start to change. So if factories don't have information, how did they calculate the price? And if they don't have information, how do they actually make the product? You just random make things out of random things that they random show up at the factory? No way. And they never heard of Ross and never heard of Reach. There is a China Ross and there's a China Reach, and actually there's the same or even more stringent than the European version. So one of the questions is, do you think that you can sell the products you bought from China in China? In many cases, I think you cannot, because the Chinese customs will ask for the same or more information. The factories that you deal with, they are not subjected to that. They don't have a local market license. They can only export. What about chemical legislation? This whole thing with SDSs, and that is related to SDSs, is actually part of a global legislation. And it is worldwide standard in 2015, and the Chinese affected that legislation in 2011. That's 12 years ago. You are all, most of you, involved in social compliance audit for your first-tier suppliers. For BCI, or it could be SA 8000. It doesn't really matter. Somewhere in that audit report, it says, does the factory have a separate area where they store chemicals? Yes. Is it locked? Yes. Does it have SDSs on it? Yes. It must be, because how can a factory protect workers against influence of chemicals if they don't know how to protect workers against influence of chemicals? Ditto with environment. So if this is yes, how can it be no when you start asking information on products? I really don't get it. And if you feel that you don't have enough power to escalate with this factory based on the order quantity that you order for them, then escalate on the social compliance audit. Because if factories start to lose their credibility on Amphora BCI, they will have problems with all their customers. Yeah, so this is your leverage. This is actually one of the first crossings where social compliance and product compliances meet. Yeah. By the way, and you probably know it, but if you look into social compliance audit, your first-tier supplier should oppose the same to their next-tier suppliers. And it can be a different system. They don't need to be Amphora BCI, but it's actually a similar kind of risk. Have you checked if they started to do that? Get things in motion. That's my point. And I already mentioned, if most of the factories supply globally to global markets, if you supply products to the US market, especially if there's any electronics in there or more complex products, the liability in the US, I don't need to explain to you, it's completely different than in Europe. So there's one way to avoid any potential liability, that is use certified parts. Certified printed circuit board, certified plastic, certified internal wiring, certified connectors, certified. And there's a big yellow book of UL registered parts, and it's humongous. Yeah, and when they start to produce for the US, they will pick components from those products because A, it reduces liability, B, saves a lot on testing because all these parts are already tested. There's even certified label printers, ink cartridges, and labels. So if companies can detail it for the US, why cannot for your EU market? So I just think that you need to play the game with your suppliers a little bit different in the future. Look at why things are not going in the way you want them to go, and change your behavior towards them in order to make it going to go into the direction that you want to go. And if not, perhaps find another one. It cannot be that your world is not changing if the outside world is changing so dramatically. Challenge or change, yeah, that is the key. It's difficult for you, but you are already in the flow. If I need to become your competitor, it will be tremendous difficult. I have a lot of respect for you running your company. You need to deal with a lot of logistics things and finance and EDI and packaging. It's not easy. So, but it's also kind of complex for retail. Yeah, they also cannot just onboard a supplier. They also cannot just do a promotion for one product if they need to have spare parts for the next 5 to 7 years. They also cannot, bring all kind of things like digital product passports. So the whole compliance layer and the service part around that will become an added value, as has logistics in the last 20 years. So it's just how you mature your business. And I think dealing maturely with product compliance and supply chain compliance is really future added value. That is from my side. I would say keep calm and stay compliant. If there's no questions to be answered now, then we will close this session. I see many of you probably this afternoon. We have 3 sessions. You cannot subscribe anymore for that. We've closed that and send out the Zoom invites for that. If you really want to get an invite for any of these sessions, then send me an email or send Saskia an email, and then we'll send that invite to you separately. We have a session on food contact material. We have a session on digital product passport and a session on what goes wrong with declarations of conformity. And they're all 30 minutes, high-speed pressure cooker, no time to waste. For now, thank you for this. We will ensure that you will get all the slides, and we have recorded it. We also ensure that you will get access to these recordings. I think especially some of you missed the intro by the 2 people of action, which would be relevant to look back at. If we don't speak anymore this year, season's greeting. See you then in 2024. Take care. Thank you also on behalf of Saskia and my colleagues. Bye-bye.